After countless hours of research, you're finally ready to take the notes you've collected and turn them into a biography for your veteran. So let's talk about some tools you have to organize all that research into a narrative biography. Here at the West Virginia National Cemeteries Project, we think 3 ingredients are the most important for a great biography: chronology, context and significance, and tenacious research. So let's delve more into what each of these really means. Remember, we've prepared a special set of helpful resources for you that your teacher can give you in printed or digital form at any time. In addition to this video, be sure to reference those as you write. The dictionary definition of chronology is pretty straightforward: the arrangement of events or dates in the order of their occurrence. This is important, even if it seems obvious. For the most part, your biographies will move in chronological order through your veteran's life, from their birth until their death. It's not a Quentin Tarantino movie, after all. We're not just here to entertain or tell a story. History is also here to teach us. Chronology helps us as writers and the audience understand causality, which is the relationship between cause and effect. If all we cared about was a list of events in your veteran's life, we could do that with a bullet point list. History is about understanding the how and why of what happened, which is why your biography should try to convey more than just the chronology of your veteran's life. What was going on around your veteran during each of the moments you've discovered? Research and write about the local, regional, and national events that might be affecting their options and choices. If your veteran was born in 1925, for example, nearly their entire journey to adulthood was dominated by the difficult circumstances of the Great Depression. In this example, our student authors illustrate a causal relationship between the Depression and Ralph Polling's scant job options, which lead the young man to abandon high school in rural West Virginia and journey to Baltimore for work. Because these authors studied the larger national chronology outside their veteran's life, they understood how to place his experiences in context. As they move forward in time to his World War II service, they take a paragraph to step outside what they know directly about Polling and study what his unit was doing. This helps the audience understand where they are as we dip back into Polling's personal experiences during the mission where he was shot down. If you study good historical writing, it's full of this cross-cutting between big and small chronologies, zooming out to explain the big picture, then zooming back into a microcosm like your veteran's service. That leads us pretty neatly to our second ingredient: context and significance. But before we move on, let's talk about 2 notable exceptions to the chronology rule that might be handy for you. First, to grab the reader's attention, your very first paragraph might serve as a teaser for the information coming later. In this example, the authors chose to hint at Dennis Bennett's tragic fate in the first paragraph before proceeding in chronological order. That can be an effective tool for ensuring the audience wants to know more. Lastly, you may want to save certain details for later in the bio if they interrupt the narrative flow. This is something of a creative choice. In this bio of Marine Officer Eugenius Hovater, even though Hovater was married in 1941, the students introduce his marriage after finishing the story of his military service, so it functions as a segue into his retirement and civilian life. All of these are tools to enhance your narrative, usually to help your audience understand context and significance. Ultimately, the best method we have to honor these veterans is to help people understand the historical events our veterans were part of. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines don't have to participate in huge battles or momentous events to serve their country. Let's take a look at Jerry Allen Hanks, who served as a Marine aviation mechanic. Though these writers never found anything from Hanks himself about why he joined, they discovered he went to an unusual technical school in Indianapolis that focused heavily on mechanical skills and preparation for military service. They speculate this may have eventually led him to his career in the Marines. This additional research context about the school really helped them understand more about Hanks and provides local context. Again, the students didn't find out much about Hanks's work from sources about him. Since they couldn't find any, they turned to his unit in general. By finding information about the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing in the late 1950s, they figured out the types of aircraft Hanks would have worked on as an aviation mechanic. This is far more engaging and interesting than if such details had been left out, and more useful to other historians researching men like Hanks or units like his. Finally, before finishing out details on his civilian life, The researchers mentioned that even though Hanks's service never took him outside of the U.S., his unit still formed a vital link in the nation's protection during the tense days of the Cold War, when Soviet attack on the continental U.S. was always a possibility. By putting effort into just a few key details, these authors provided context for a veteran who served just a few short years and demonstrated the significance of that service. You can do the same. And your number one tool for accomplishing it is research. Not just research, but tenacious research. It's really easy to get discouraged when doing this kind of research and writing. Google can't find everything. Archives are incomplete. Information is scattered across dozens of repositories all over the country. Sometimes you even have to open a book because you can't find the right stuff online. But the truth is, so much of the information you need is out there. It's all in how you think about it. We like to tell ourselves that the search engines and tools we're using to look for most of our information are there to be as helpful as possible. While that may be true much of the time, it's better to treat them like they aren't helpers, but obstacles. For those of you who like to watch crime shows and legal dramas, think of them as hostile witnesses, a courtroom term denoting a witness you called to help your case, but whom you now believe is intentionally hindering you. In research terms, it means that the tools you're using have biases, limitations, and underlying architecture designed by engineers who program based on how they think search engines should work. And that often leads to results that aren't helpful to serious historians. Put another way, imagine yourself as a hacker on a mission to break into a database and extract certain pieces of information. If your codes and hacks were unsuccessful, you'd look for other ways to get in. Think of your research the same way. Assume the information is out there, but something is blocking your way. Try every permutation of relevant search terms with different combinations of quotations, specific words you think might net results, and so on. If the info didn't come up in one search engine or database, try another. If online databases come up dry, look for organizations in the target area that might have what you need, like a missing yearbook or other local publication, and never accept defeat. Just because things aren't going well today doesn't mean you won't have a breakthrough tomorrow. That's part of what being a tenacious researcher is all about. The other part of being a tenacious researcher is knowing that the research is never really done. But wait, you say, shouldn't I finish my research, then write what I know into this biography? Not exactly. Yes, you need a certain amount of solid research done before you can start writing at all. But always remember, writing is not just a product, it's a process. And more importantly, writing is processing. Besides cave paintings, writing is the oldest and still the most effective method of passing on what we know permanently to other people who aren't in the room with us and to future generations. While it's something we do all the time in emails and text messages, writing is a process of internal discovery where we come to new realizations as we engage in the process of writing things down. When you first start converting your notes into a narrative biography, you're going to make discoveries. Things you didn't think were important suddenly generate new questions or require more explanation. As you write, look at your text and ask yourself at least these two questions. Do I understand everything I'm writing? And will an unfamiliar audience understand everything I'm writing? The questions are related because if you don't understand everything you're writing, chances are your audience won't either, which is where being a tenacious researcher pays off. While you're writing your biography, take the time to look at how things are flowing. Are there large gaps in your veteran's life or service you know nothing about? Do you know what your veteran's unit was doing and why? How did it operate? Veteran experiences are so varied, we can only honor them properly if we get specific. A ball turret gunner on a B-24 in Europe has a very different experience from an engineer building air bases in Alaska or a sailor on a South Pacific destroyer. The more you chase these details as tenaciously as possible, the more your biography will make sense to both you and your audience, and the more rewarding the process will be. Remember, you have help every step of the way. There's so much to discover. Keep at it.